Welcome to Channel AMEC, your insight to the Australian visa system. Good day everyone, my name is Carl Young, your online YouTube visa consultant. Now in this video, I would like to take you into the depth of 188A, which is under the Business Innovation Visa, with a little bit of the detail on 188.225, where it's specified in regards to the service-based business. So whether or not, if you're a business owner, you're interested to migrate to Australia under this kind of visa, would you be meeting this criteria? If you're in a small business sector or in a service-based sector, would you meet the criteria, is what we're going to discuss in this video today. So let's take a look at what immigration's web page and website actually shows. So now here we go. This is the Australian immigration's website. Let me just twist the page a bit and you'll see that down here it's subclass 188 under the business innovation stream, and let's take into the eligibility. If you want to know the actual overview of the visa, I've done the video before. You can actually search and find it. Let's go to the eligibility. Now what we're going to discuss today is here at the have business ownership. Obviously it's quite straightforward and direct. If you're a business owner, obviously you have the ownership with the business, and what you need to do is you need to demonstrate that immediately before you receive invitation, that within the 4 years that you have 2 years of the business had achieved of annual turnover of at least $500,000 Australian dollars. I don't think that's much of a problem here. Now what we're gonna discuss today is this sentence right down the bottom of this tab here. It says here if your business provides professional, technical or trade services, you must have spent less than half of your time providing those services rather than the general management of the business. So what does that mean? That means if you're a business small enough, if you have a workshop, if you're working as an accountant, you have the business, you have the firm, you have a company, you only employ 1 or 2 people. If you're a lawyer, you employ 1 or 2 assistants, paralegals. If you're a doctor, if you're a dentist, and you have a couple of nurses working there, and you have spent half of your time generating turnover solely from yourself, now then you will not be qualified for 188A business innovation stream. Now that doesn't mean you're not a successful business owner. Now generally for these service-based professionals or technical tradesmen, you are more qualified towards 188B investor stream. So although from the nature of a business you have less human resource expenditures, obviously you have a much lump sum of profits, then you'll be meeting the investor stream. The immigration regulation will require you to jump into invest into government bond rather than going into business innovation to actually build another or establish another business in Australia. So let's take a look at what the regulation actually spells out. Now let me every web page is a little bit different, so I need to adjust this over, otherwise you can't read the full thing. So what we're going to discuss today is actually 188.225 in the clause 188.225. So the subclause 1 is quite straightforward, as what we have explained before. At least two of the 4 fiscal year and you have the ownership of the business, and the business turns over annual 500,000. That's not an issue. That's pretty straightforward. If you cannot meet that requirement, you will not be meeting any of the business visas, to be honest. Now main thing that we want to talk about today is the subclause 2. It says here, if the applicant was engaged in one or more business providing professional technical trade services at least 2 or 4 fiscal year immediately before the time of invitation to apply a visa, the applicant was directly engaged in the provision of the services, so as distinct from the general direction. So what does that mean? That means that you are not just overlooking, monitoring, supervising the whole business and generally managing the overview of the business, but you are actually jumping there to provide a service yourself, then that's what they don't want. So you cannot no more than half of the time spent of the applicant day-to-day conduct of the business. So for instance, if you're a medical practitioner and you own a clinic, say in somewhere in Europe, okay, a small clinic, obviously when the patients comes in, well, I can say 50% of these patients wanted to see you rather than see someone else. Then, and that's the keyword that you will not meet 188.225. Now, give you another example. If you're an accountant in, let's say you got an accounting firm in Singapore, you employ about 2 or 3 assistants there, and predominantly 70-80% of your clients come to your firm to actually see you and get taxation consulting by you, then obviously you will not meet the requirement. Now, give you another example. If you're a tradesperson, you have a workshop and you have a team of workers, team of tradesmen, and you obtained possibility of projects for construction, for example. And the people that you hire is, you got project manager, you got 4 or 5 other tradesperson, and you go on site and work on different multiple projects concurrently. Now, you might jump in there to work sometimes, but you are more of handling, obtaining more and more quotation, obtaining more and more projects, and you allow the project manager to manage all the workers working on site. Although you do understand how the construction work, but you merely work in there, then you will meet this requirement, because you spend more than half your time doing the general direction of the operation of the business rather than go in and conduct the actual direct engagement of the services. So that's a difference here. Now, obviously, I'll give you the example is sometimes I notice some business owners, they are in the glimpse of gray area. How do you calculate 50%, no more than half? How do we do that? Let's have a look. So what the immigration case officer could do, and this is within what their policy and their actual manual. So when immigration case officer handling and process your applications, or they go, oh wow, okay, you're in service-based business. Okay, let's have a look. We have a checklist here. So what the top 2 sentences that are highlighted is what we have just discussed, and basically it says if your professional is in for example medical practitioners, I have said, dentists, lawyers, working professional, self-employed as electrician or mechanics, so service-based, it's not a product or retail or wholesale or international trades type of business. You're in a service-based business. For example, myself, I won't meet this requirement because 70% of the client, although they may come through my other staffs, but they require me to actually giving the advice, because to be honest, immigration of Australian regulation is very, very complex. Hardly through my 15 years of practice or more, I haven't seen they are very minimal number of people that could actually covers the entire regulations knowledge. Anyhow, so when a case officer assessed your application under 188 business innovation stream, these are the checklists that they're looking for. So they're looking for, so what type of business that you are in, how big of the size of the business, so based on the turnover, based on how many people you actually hired, specific role for yourself, either you're only a director managing it, or you're actually someone. It's very typical if you're a medical practitioner or a lawyer or accountant, because your firm, your business, you will be the principal there. You have to be dealing with clients, unless your clinic, if you're a medical practitioner, is a medium size, you actually hire and employed additional medical practitioner, then that's a different scenario. Or if you're a law firm, you are an associate law firm, you actually have multiple, for example, 10 other different type of lawyers specifically specialized in different area of law, then that's a different scenario again. So they're looking to how many professional technical trade qualified staff that you employ. That's exactly what I have just explained. And the affiliations of your professional business management relation organization. So they're looking at the third parties, other contracted party related to you. For example, if you're an accountant, do you affiliate with other law firms, and what is your relationship there? If you're a construction trades professionals, do you have other tiers of layers of contractors that you're actually using or utilizing as well? And finally, they're looking at the evidence of applicants' timesheet with diary entry. So, and that's a hard thing. How do you prove that? Well, I do know clinic medical practitioner, they do require to record a lot of these timesheets as well. Now, it's very hard for lawyers and accounting firms where they do timesheets. They do have that kind of mechanism to do it, but it's a different. How do you measure 50%? Sometimes accountant and professional like me, the time that we spend is over than what general probably actually expected. So again, it's very hard. Now, I think that the more basic way to actually identify and actually volumize this regulation is look. If you're a service-based business, how many people do you employ? We think the turnover, the money that the business actually gain, do they require 50% of your time to actually get these type of earnings? For me, that's pretty straightforward, 100%. If without me, well, the business or this YouTube channel will not survive because it requires me to be here. Now, for some other obviously medical practitioner, if you own a hospital, obviously you meet the requirement. But if you only have a small clinic in the suburban areas, then that's a different scenario. Now, anyhow, this is how we interpret and explain for the regulation clause 188.225. Should you have more query or questions, more than welcome to leave a comment right down below. And finally, I would like to ask you to consider subscribe to my channel AMEC, and make sure that the little bell on the side you can click, so when we have a new updates and inside of news, you'll be the first one getting it. I see you in the next video. Goodbye.